A purple-haired girl flees as an unseen man demands she come out, while a woman in a green apron tries to guide her to safety. The purple-haired girl glances back in terror as the man threatens to break her legs if he finds her. The purple-haired girl reaches an open stone doorway while panting heavily from the chase. She falls to the ground and looks back in fear at her invisible pursuer. A man in a red vest brutally grabs the girl by her hair, gloating that he knew she would hide there. The girl cries out in pain, desperately apologizing to the man she calls father. He ignores her pleas, calling her a useless girl as he continues to restrain her. Despite her father's verbal abuse calling her a worthless flea, the girl internally rejects his insults. Amidst the darkness, a voice calls out for Ireche as she continues to beg her father for forgiveness. The adult Ireche bolts upright in bed, gasping as her red-haired friend Amita urgently tells her to wake up. Amita reassures Ireche that her traumatic memory was just a nightmare and that she is safe now. Looking around the dimly lit room, Ireche calls out to her friend in a dazed tone. Ireche somberly acknowledges that she has suffered through yet another nightmare about her past. Amita explains that she heard Arisha's distress from the hallway, while Arisha admits she feared being dragged away again. Amita pulls Ireche into a warm hug, noting that her friend has been visibly tense lately. Holding her close, Amita promises that her father can no longer reach her in this place. Ireche recalls the moment she reached marriageable age and overheard a marriage contract being arranged with Count Sudo. Knowing her father only viewed her as a chip for his gambling debts, Ireche fled to Amita's house. She resolved to carve out her own fate rather than be sold off to a stranger. Back in the present, Amita is surprised when Ireche suddenly clings to her during their hug. Ireche laughs off the trauma, joking that she should have kicked her father in the shins before running away. Amita playfully chides Ireche for scaring her and advises her to simply run if he ever appears again. Amita jokes about throwing Ireche's father into a ditch, which Ireche finds to be a comforting idea. While Amita smiles, she secretly worries that Ireche is using laughter to mask her internal pain. As dawn breaks, Amita tells Ireche that she has just thought of a new plan. Amita suggests they go out and enjoy themselves to celebrate Ireche's successful escape from her family. A grand ballroom is filled with high society guests dancing under bright golden lights. The party continues as elegantly dressed couples mingle across the massive, ornate floor. Amita notes that the upper class gathered here are looking for indulgence, while Ireche is overwhelmed by the crowd. Amita warns Ireche not to drink too much as Ireche admits to feeling excited by the atmosphere. Ireche is horrified when Amita jokes that passing out drunk would lead to a tavern owner carrying her off. Ireche notices a man watching her and expresses her discomfort with his creepy, lingering gaze. Wanting to avoid attention, Ireche suggests to a man nearby that they slip away to somewhere private. Amita reminds Ireche of her beauty and warns her to stay alert among the predatory men at the party. Amita excitedly mentions that her lover, Nagor, should be arriving soon and suggests they look for him. Amita tells Ireche to keep her back straight to command respect before leading her further into the room. The guests whisper in admiration of Ireche's beauty, wondering if she is a high-class courtesan. A man named Nagor greets Amita, who explains she was delayed while fixing her attire. Nagor kisses Amita's hand, prompting onlookers to remark on his capability and their established relationship. Ireche watches them, feeling dissatisfied and noting that the men seem to treat Amita like a mere accessory. Amita warns Ireche not to be a rebel, insisting that Nagor is actually a good man. Ireche keeps her criticisms to herself, reminding herself that she owes Amita for her care and her dress. Amita and Nagor talk while Ireche stands silently behind them at the party. A brown-haired man in formal attire approaches Ireche as she stands alone. The man introduces himself, though the noise prevents Ireche from hearing his name before she gives her own. A black-haired man mentions he heard she lacked a partner, while Ireche realizes Nagor must have sent him. Ireche tells the man she hasn't danced all night and boldly asks him to be her partner. The man critiques her for making the first move, but Ireche retorts that she is not like typical ladies. He warns that excessive cheerfulness will make men run away, making it hard for her to find partners. Ireche spins away cheerfully, mockingly calling his insult wonderful advice. Ireche decides that her cheerful behavior will successfully drive away any cowardly men she encounters. Her dancing partner claims to be out of stamina, but Ireche insists they continue dancing. The man is completely exhausted while Ireche notices something suspicious happening across the room. Amita and Nagor are seen talking to a man in a hat holding a search paper. Amita hides her worried expression behind a fan while watching the man with the paper. Ireche shushes her partner as she realizes the man in the hat is looking for her. Ireche suddenly excuses herself from the dance, leaving her partner confused on the floor. She runs away while the man questions her rude behavior and asks where she is going. Ireche mockingly suggests that the man should visit a convent if he wants a demure lady. Ireche sprints through the party, wondering how her father's men managed to find her there. Voices yell for her to be caught while she desperately flees into the night. Ireche searches for a hiding place and decides to duck into a nearby carriage. She reaches out and grabs the handle of the carriage door to make her escape. Opening the door, she is startled to find a blonde man already sitting inside. Startled by his presence, Iriche stares at the man while trying to hide herself. The blonde man calmly observes her as she intrudes into his private carriage. Iriche notes that the man looks too composed to be someone who helps strangers easily. Men outside shout for her to stop, causing Iriche to panic as she is cornered. The blonde man reaches out and takes her hand to pull her into the carriage. He pulls her close to shield her from view as the carriage begins to move. He tells the driver it is time to go and the carriage speeds away. Iriche lies to the man, claiming she was being pursued by a persistent harasser. She continues her lie, explaining that she was separated from her companions during the event. The blonde man notes that she was lucky to avoid a truly terrifying experience. He offers to escort her home safely, showing a kind and reassuring smile. He asks for her destination and she introduces herself to him as Iriche. The man remarks that Iriche is an unusual name as they continue their ride. Iriche thinks to herself that giving her real name was actually a lie. The man introduces himself as Cassis, catching Iriche completely off guard. Stunned by the name, Iriche repeats it out loud in a moment of pure shock. She apologizes for her reaction, lying that the name belongs to someone else she knows. Cassis dismisses her shock while Iriche realizes how dangerous men like him can be. She worries that the world would be far more dangerous if such men were everywhere. Iriche is deeply troubled by the possibility that her father found Amita's house. She remembers seeing Amita and Negor talking to the man searching for her. Amita believes that Negor's high status will provide them with total protection. Iriche reflects on the harsh reality that women are still considered their father's property. She contemplates asking to be dropped off at a nearby inn instead of home. Iriche realizes the dangers a woman faces when staying alone at an inn at night. She decides she must rely on Cassis for now and find a better excuse. After a bump in the road, she fakes a twisted ankle to explain her distress. She suggests going to her friend's house so they can summon a doctor for that. Iriche claims she is visiting the city on a trip to explain her presence. Cassis smiles, mentioning that women enjoy a new era of freedom in this age. Visuals show successful women, yet note they are still legally owned by men. Iriche laughs awkwardly at the ironic idea of a new era of freedom for women. She realizes she had a note with the address but cannot find it. Iriche panics as she realizes she lost the address while running away earlier. Cassis asks if she remembers the way back, and she admits she is lost. Iriche wonders if Cassis anticipated this situation or if it is just her imagination. Cassis offers to search for her friend and invites her to stay at his mansion. Cassis notes the name Iriche provided is quite common, which she somberly confirms. A street lamp glows as a narrative note explains how frequently that common name appears. The carriage arrives at a massive, well-lit estate where an elderly butler waits to greet them. Cassis assists Iriche out of the carriage, and she finds his helpful nature very charming. Iriche suddenly loses her footing, letting out a surprised cry as her balance fails her. Cassis catches Iriche as she falls, noting that she seems far more unsteady than expected. Cassis carries the blushing Iriche toward the mansion while the butler watches the unexpected scene. The butler gazes at the pair and wonders if his master brought home a courtesan. Iriche asks to be set down, but Cassis insists on carrying her due to her injury. Cassis orders the butler to immediately fetch a physician to treat the young lady's injured leg. Inside the grand estate, Iriche expresses her awe while Cassis modestly downplays his social status. Cassis leads Iriche into a lavish bedroom, which she remarks looks fit for a princess. Iriche questions if she should use such a room, and Cassis confirms his hospitality. Chidi Iriche wonders if this was fate, while Cassis secretly finds her trusting nature suspicious. Cassis watches from the window, noting how easily the supposedly pursued woman followed a stranger. Looking out at the night, Cassis wonders if Iriche has forgotten their previous encounter. Cassis contemplates the fact that Iriche truly does not seem to recognize him at all. In a flashback, Iriche recalls her mother's joyless life within their dull and unhappy household. Her mother sits silently by a window while the younger Iriche runs out of the room. The mother remains motionless and distant as the scene transitions to a clear blue sky. Driven by a desire for freedom, the young Iriche began venturing farther away from home. Disguised as a boy, Iriche sold goods and secretly left earnings to support her mother. Iriche notes that people are less helpful during hard times while navigating the busy village. She planned to disguise herself as a servant to gain experience in the local markets. In the present, the sleeping Iriche dreams of finding the opportunity to start a business. Iriche wakes up at lunchtime and yawns, worrying that her sleep has ruined her reputation. Outside the door, the maids argue over whether they should wake the master's guest. In the kitchen, the maids gossip about Iriche's status while enjoying some high-quality peach jam. The staff notes that Cassis is difficult to read and has been exceptionally generous. They discuss how unusual it is for Cassis to smile and ask Pamela her opinion. Iriche overhears the maids calling her dress indecent and predicting she will never find a match. Chibi Iriche acknowledges that these judgmental remarks are only the beginning of her challenges. Iriche decides to ignore the insults and be a polite guest as she enters the kitchen. A maid is startled when she notices a shadow approaching the doorway of the staff area. Iriche enters the kitchen and greets Lena, who offers to bring her service upstairs. Iriche asks for food, explaining that she preferred coming down instead of waiting while hungry. Lena suggests the dining room would be faster, but Iriche admits she dislikes eating alone. As Iriche eats, Lena explains that Cassis is out writing but will return shortly. Iriche is deeply impressed by the flavor of the jam, praising the cook's delicious work. The maids discuss Lena's culinary skills, though Lena remains humble about her talent. Iriche details why the jam is special before thanking them and heading back upstairs. Cassis returns with the seamstress, checking on Iriche's well-being and introducing the woman. Iriche offers to wear maid clothes, but Cassis insists she maintain her dignity as a guest. The seamstress prepares her tools as a narrative note reflects on the importance of appearances. Cassis offers his arm to help Iriche balance, and she accepts his support for the fitting. The seamstress begins her work while Cassis asks Iriche if her posture is comfortable. Iriche is startled by how close Cassis has moved and finds his firm grip intense. Cassis releases her and announces the fitting is finished while Iriche remains frozen in surprise. Iriche looks back at him, wondering if the tension she felt was real or her imagination. The seamstress asks Iriche for her color preference while Cassis takes a closer look at samples. Cassis tells Iriche to choose plenty of fabrics to maintain her dignity while visiting his home. Iriche nervously asks Cassis to explain what he means by being strict about a guest's dignity. Cassis agrees to explain while Iriche tells herself to get a grip and stop being so conscious. Iriche says she dislikes brown and yellow, and Cassis agrees to choose every other color instead. Iriche is shocked and asks if he is serious, and Cassis asks if he seemed joking. Cassis offers to pay triple for immediate delivery of clothes, leaving a startled Iriche protesting the expense. Cassis explains that she needs several outfits so people don't gossip, while the butler and maid watch. Iriche gives up and requests beautiful clothes, while Cassis and the butler agree to fulfill her wish. Iriche happily tells someone at the door to convey her thanks for an invitation to an event. Looking in a mirror, Iriche resolves to be a good guest and reminds herself to be confident. Cassis welcomes Iriche to a meal, and she asks if they are the only ones eating together. Cassis confirms he lives alone in the mansion, causing Iriche to react with surprise at his solitude. Cassis encourages Iriche to feel at home and says she can speak to the butler for anything. Iriche thanks Cassis for his help, and he claims he would give her anything she wants. Iriche asks if Cassis is this kind to everyone, and he replies that she's good. Cassis mentions her kindness to slum children, causing Iriche to wonder if he is mistaken. Cassis insists he remembers her name exactly and could never confuse her with anyone else. Cassis calls her France Casa, causing Iriche to react with sudden shock and a darkened expression. Large text expresses total disbelief that the man is the same Cassis from her childhood years. A flashback shows a young, dirty blonde-haired boy looking up from a village street. A thought bubble expresses shock that the man claims to be the boy from the past. The flashback continues, showing the disheveled blonde boys standing alone in a village with old houses. Cassis recalls how Iriche took care of him while they hid in taverns and studied in stables. Iriche grabs Cassis's hands and asks why he didn't contact her after he suddenly disappeared. Cassis asks if she grieved for him, and Iriche confirms she did while wiping away tears. A flashback shows children together, with Iriche looking after the orphan and sharing knowledge. Narrative text emphasizes how Iriche generously shared all of the knowledge she had with the boy. A narrative bubble asks if she remembers those times as the boy looks on with starry eyes. Narrative text recalls Iriche telling the young boy that he was capable of doing anything. Iriche explains she was just happy to be needed, downplaying his immense gratitude for her kindness. Cassis looks at her warmly, stating that he is simply remembering the precious kindness she showed. Iriche rests her hand on the table while admitting her kindness wasn't entirely selfless. Close-up of the lower half of Cassis's face as he asks her if that's so. Cassis asks if he can call her by her new name, and Iriche happily agrees. Visuals of Iriche accompany text stating her old name was too noble to dare speak. Cassis thinks to himself that saying her name brings a sense of guilt and a thrill. Cassis asks Iriche to treat him as comfortably as she used to, and she agrees. Outside a cabin at night, narrative bubbles mention the Count is searching for her like mad. Inside the cabin, men discuss the Count's obsession and how Iriche jumped into a stranger's carriage. A man orders the others to stop the useless chatter and keep watch on the Count. A man with a knife asks if they can just stab the Count instead of doing surveillance. Another man explains that kidnapping isn't an option because the captain deliberately doesn't want to use force. Cassis listens as his men discuss the Emperor's surveillance and the plan to wait for failure. A man jokes about being a cupid of love while the others react with confusion. The man tells Cassis to shower Iriche with gold and clothes to make it feel like fate. The man advises Cassis to lie about their destiny, but Cassis silences him with a punch. Cassis orders his men to report everything, expecting the Count's funds to run out very soon. A maid compliments Iriche's new blue dress while Iriche stands happily in her grand bedroom. Cassis greets Iriche in the hallway, and she notes she would have come down to him. Iriche explains she wanted to check if he was real after thinking she was dreaming. Cassis suggests he came to escort her, but Iriche admits her leg no longer hurts. Cassis recalls her leaping into the carriage easily. Iriche realizes he knew she was faking and calls him a smooth talker with a blush. Cassis offers to carry her anyway, prompting Iriche to quickly decline while looking very flustered. While eating bread, Iriche asks Cassis to tell the story he promised her the night before. Cassis explains how his relatives planned to kick him out and how her words inspired him to leave. Cassis remembers traveling to a coastal city and his desire to tell her about it. Iriche teases him about flirting, while Cassis describes the rough working conditions and labor shortages in Linter. Cassis credits his success to hard work, while Iriche playfully suggests poor people should just move there. Iriche explains she escaped her father's house with help, but was ultimately discovered by his men. Iriche denies running off with a man, explaining she was alone and being chased when they met. Cassis compliments her beauty, while Iriche notes how much his personality has changed since they were young. Cassis asks if she received marriage proposals from nobles, his expression turning suddenly serious and focused. Iriche recounts running away after learning her father and Count Pseudo were bartering over her in letters. Iriche expresses her desire to prove her own worth and achieve a better life for herself alone. Cassis questions why she didn't just marry a wealthy man to naturally improve her life's quality. Iriche compares her father's marriage deals to selling livestock at a market, rejecting the dehumanizing treatment. Iriche wants to achieve something meaningful through her own efforts, just as Cassis has successfully done. Cassis suggests her opinion might have been different if she had actually met the suitor in person. Iriche expresses her distaste for a man who forces marriage without any regard for a woman's opinion. Cassis offers to share stories about the friends he made in Linter, which Iriche eagerly accepts. During their meal, Chibi Iriche asks Cassis if he has any specific plans for the future. Iriche shares her plan to disguise herself as a man to find employment as a clerk quickly. She discusses finding an apprenticeship, but mentions the need to contact her friend Amita for help first. Cassis worries that her friend might be under surveillance and fears his guest might be discovered. A narrative warning explains how the Count could discover her location by following her secret correspondence. Cassis offers to have a trusted associate deliver her letter to ensure her location remains a secret. Iriche gratefully accepts his offer of assistance while Cassis watches her from his seat across the table. Cassis smiles warmly, assuring her that it is his absolute pleasure to assist with her request. A transition reveals the bright afternoon sky as the scene shifts to the mansion's lush gardens. Iriche plays tag with the mates, whose spirits have brightened significantly since her arrival at the estate. Grooms observe the lively scene from afar, noting that the young lady's behavior is quite unruly. The game ends as the maids realize they must return to their duties before getting into trouble. Cassis watches from a distance, feeling like his presence has inadvertently interrupted the group's playful game. Cassis resolves to be more careful so his presence doesn't discourage the staff's newfound playful spirit. While enjoying dessert, Iriche encourages Cassis to try a piece of the cake, praising its delicious flavor. Cassis asks for another bite while leaning close, causing Iriche to blush intensely at the sudden proximity. Chibi Iriche hands him the whole slice, suggesting he eat as much as he likes by himself. After Iriche praises the cook, Cassis uses the opportunity to send her away to give out bonuses. The maids are surprised by how quickly Iriche departed and consider starting their game over again. A maid asks Iriche if she finds the master frightening, causing a moment of sudden surprise. Iriche questions the staff about Cassis's temperament and whether he has ever been rude or aggressive. The maid clarifies that Cassis is a reserved employer who never demands much from his loyal staff. The staff admits they rarely see him smile, even though they once mistook him for a soldier. Chibi maids describe how sharp and intimidating the master was before Iriche arrived at the mansion. Relieved that the master seems happier now, Iriche suggests that the group resume their game of tag. Iriche reflects on the servant's words, surprised that Cassis has only ever shown her a smile. A transition shows Iriche walking through the gardens at night as she reflects on her current situation. Chibi Iriche yawns, wondering if she will receive a reply from Amita while she continues her stay. Looking out at the evening laundry, Iriche wonders if the clothes belong to the master himself. The purple-haired woman suddenly realizes exactly what she wants to do with her day. Iriche greets the stable hand early in the morning, noting his hard work has already begun. The stable hand returns the greeting but questions why she is wearing the master's clothes. Iriche asks about the morning routine for the horses while the stable hand explains his schedule. The stable hand asks Iriche what business brings her to the stables at such an hour. With a bright smile, Iriche announces her intention to try her hand at horseback riding. Iriche waves energetically from atop a horse while the stable hand fruitlessly begs her to dismount. Cassis warns her that waving while mounted is dangerous as she begins to lose her balance. Cassis shouts her name in alarm as the purple-haired woman slips from the sow. Cassis catches Iriche, questioning her actions while telling her to get down from the horse. Iriche playfully boasts about her progress, claiming she was nearly ready to learn how to gallop. Cassis accepts her refusal to dismount and suggests that he sit behind her instead. Cassis comments on her stubborn nature, while Iresh cheekily thanks him for the supposed compliment. Cassis asks if she took the horse without permission, but Iresh insists that wasn't the case. The stable hand panics, weighing whether the master will be angrier about the horse or his refusal. Iriche jokes about being a thief, admitting she stole both the horse and his clothes. Cassis calls her a maid thief as Iriche claims her popularity might get him thrown out. Cassis predicts rain and points toward a willow tree as a destination for their ride. Iriche challenges him to run straight there, telling him not to complain about any potential danger. Cassis asks if she will regret the decision if the rain causes them to get stuck. Iriche remains undeterred, stating she isn't scared at all as they begin their fast ride. Drenched by the sudden downpour, Iriche considers walking back since they are already soaked. Shivering under a tree, Iriche asks how he can be so certain the rain will end. Cassis explains that his first job on a ship required him to be weather sensitive. Cassis describes the harsh conditions at sea where many boys died from sickness or waves. Cassis admits his life was always solitary, but the sea taught him true loneliness. A flashback shows a younger Cassis drinking on a ship's deck under the moonlight. Cassis finds her hand warm and pleasant as Irish asks if he ever wanted to quit. Iriche notices numerous scars on his chest, which Cassis attributes to fighting off pirate attacks. Cassis explains that while many died, he survived specifically to find his way back to her. Iriche interrupts the emotional moment to point out that the rain has finally stopped falling. Cassis agrees to return home to avoid illness while privately resolving to take things slow. Safe inside the mansion, a pensive Iriche sits on a sofa draped in a blanket. Cassis reiterates that his time at sea forced him to always be sensitive to the weather. Iriche wonders if she has become too comfortable and complacent in her new life of ease. Resting her head, Iriche feels as though she is forgetting something incredibly important. A gentle hand reaches out to stroke Iriche's hair as she begins to drift off. Cassis tells her to sleep a bit more, while Iriche finds his touch deeply comforting. Waking up, Iriche is surprised to see Cassis still sitting in the room with her. Cassis asks if his presence woke her and checks to see if her fever has broken yet. Cassis is relieved she is healthy as Iriche laughs off his concerns about her catching cold. Cassis warns her against visiting the stables alone or placing too much trust in the servants. Cassis speaks her name with a stern expression, emphasizing his protective stance over her safety. Iriche apologizes and promises to ask first, while a butler enters to deliver a letter. Cassis notes the arrival of an invitation, but observes that Amida still hasn't replied. Cassis apologizes for the potential lost letter, while Iriche worries about her friend's anxiety. Iriche questions why the invitation is addressed to someone named O'Plans instead of him. Cassis explains he uses a new name and that wealthy merchants often share the moniker. Cassis translates his new name and invites the bored Iriche to attend the party. Cassis orders the butler to bring the invitation so they can start their preparations. Cassis offers Iriche her choice of various invitations to attend. Holding an invitation, Iriche speculates that a birthday party might be too boring. Sifting through more envelopes, Cassis suggests they look for a more exciting event. After much consideration, Iriche decides that they will attend Rosa Wepper's ball. The scene shifts to a lavish ballroom filled with high society guests and ornate decorations. Nagor comforts Amida, promising that they will find Miss Iriche very soon. Amida takes a drink while remaining vigilant in the middle of the crowded party. Amida notices Count Koss's watchers following her every move, which she finds incredibly tiresome. Amida fondly remembers Iriche's cheerful face and their warm hugs from the past.
At the masquerade ball, masked Cassis and Iriche dance together among the other guests.
Cassis admits his dancing is poor, while Iriche finds the experience surprisingly challenging. Iriche reveals she learned the basics of dancing from Amida and the rest by observation. Growing thirsty from their dance, Cassis offers to fetch some champagne for them. While Cassis is away, Irash considers taking a short rest to catch her breath. A masked Cassis approaches Amita, his presence causing a wave of fear among the guests. Cassis notes Amida's interest. She clarifies she was only watching his dance partner. Cassis reveals his identity to Amida and explains that Iriche is being pursued by the Count. Amida demands to meet Iriche, but Cassis refuses to lead the Count's hirelings to her. Amida remains skeptical, questioning why she should trust a man who might be a fraud. Cassis challenges Amida's ability to protect Iriche, silencing her with his cold logic. Cassis warns Amida to stay away until the surveillance is broken, prompting a sharp threat. Observing the crowd, Iriche looks visibly disgusted by the behavior of the party guests. Guests whisper malicious rumors about a woman stealing children and having scandalous affairs. The host of the ball, the elegant Rosa Wepres, is formally introduced to the story. Iriche feels indignant on behalf of Rosa Wepres after hearing the guests' cruel slander. The gossiping women continue their whispers, questioning the motives of a young servant. A woman suggests that magic potions are the only reason anyone would fall for Rosa. Rumors fly about a necklace worth a castle, sparking curiosity about someone named Queen Paula. Cassis returns as Iriche insists they leave before she is forced to speak the truth. Rosa Wepris laughs privately about people mistaking her necklace for a royal treasure. Rosa intends to sell the necklace for an exorbitant price now that rumors have spread. Rosa reflects on the naive young lady who unintentionally helped spread the profitable rumors. Determined to uncover the source of the rumors, Rosa sets her sights on the gossipers. Back at the mansion, a maid informs Iriche that a guest has arrived to see her. Assuming the guest is her friend Amita, Iriche rushes out of her room excitedly. Iriche calls out for Amita, only to find an unexpected person waiting for her. The guest is revealed to be the ball's host, Rosa Wepris, wearing a stylish hat. Rosa invites a shocked Iriche to sit, curious to know more about Queen Paula. Rosa explains she had to hire protection from bandits who were drawn by the rumors. Feeling responsible for the trouble, a guilty Iriche offers a sincere apology to Rosa. Rosa finds her naive and encourages the ashamed young lady to not be so downhearted. When asked if she enjoyed the ball, Iriche admits she found the event very pleasant. Rosa confesses that she actually thrives on being the center of attention in any room. Rosa reflects on how difficult it becomes to attract attention as one begins to age. She notes that despite doing nothing at the ball, she had everyone's burning attention. Rosa credits Iriche's rumors for the attention, even if much of it was malicious. Despite the rumors, Rosa expresses a genuine desire to become friends with the young woman. Rosa jokingly asks if she needs permission from Cassis to become Iriche's friend.
Cassis appears suddenly, stating he cannot grant permission while Iriche asks when he arrived.
Watching them, Rosa concludes that Cassis and Iriche share a bond not based on money. Cassis greets Rosa Wepris with a professional handshake instead of the traditional kiss on the hand. Rosa questions who Queen Paula is, noting that no such queen exists within their entire country. Cassis explains that the queen was merely Iriche's invention and praises her skill at deceiving everyone. Looking cheerful, Iriche thanks Cassis for the compliment regarding her ability to fool the entire ballroom. A starry-eyed Iriche admits that even she started to believe her fictional queen actually existed. Rosa remarks on Iriche's brazen behavior while the young woman continues to accept the words as praise. Rosa invites Iriche to an upcoming garden party intended to recruit new patrons for her sponsored workshop. Sipping tea, Rosa notes that wealthy people must pretend to support artists to appear refined and cultured. Rosa mentions her partner runs the workshop and asks for Iriche's attendance, surprising her with the business mention. Rosa sets down her cup, revealing her realization that marriage was not suited for her life. Rosa describes being cast out by her father and losing her wealth after requesting a divorce. Finding herself among the working class, Rosa reflects on her decision to independently earn her own money. Iriche gazes at Rosa with profound respect, finding her story and self-reliance to be truly admirable. Iriche realizes Cass's earlier handshake was a sign of respect for Rosa's status as a business peer. Prompted by Rosa's journey, Iriche impulsively declares her own intention to begin earning her own money. Rosa warns that the path won't be easy, but offers her assistance to Iriche at any time. Embracing a pillow, Iriche smiles contentedly while contemplating the inspiring possibility of becoming an independent woman. Cassis asks Iriche if she truly wishes to emulate the life and character of Madame Rosa. With a radiant smile, Iriche confirms that she wants nothing more than to achieve such independence. Cassis notes her desire to escape her suitors and father to live a truly respected life. He observes that her goal is the complete opposite of a typical life involving marriage and love. An image of a stylish woman represents Iriche's growing admiration for those who achieve career success. Cassis suggests that her new ambitions seem to exclude the possibility of living an ordinary life. Iriche is momentarily silenced by the weight of Cassis's intense and steady gaze upon her. Blushing, Iriche interprets his look as a confession and nervously restates her goal of becoming independent. Cassis looks at her with a serious expression, questioning what she intends to do after succeeding. Startled, Iriche admits she hasn't planned that far ahead before making a quick exit to her room. Flustered, Iriche covers her face as she processes Cassis's respectful attitude and gentle, warm voice. Recalling their dance, Iriche wonders which woman could possibly turn down a proposal from such a man. Iriche leans against her hands, admitting to herself that she actually enjoyed the attention he gave her. She begins to worry that her feelings for Cassis might just be a way to escape. Clenching her fist, Iriche resolves to stand firm alone and prove what women are capable of achieving. Iriche approaches the butler in the grand hall, requesting a carriage be prepared for her immediate outing. The butler informs her that the master hasn't granted permission and advises waiting for his return. Iriche questions if he was ordered to stop her, but the butler remains firm in his refusal. Determined, Iriche decides to use a horse instead, though the butler warns she won't be allowed. Claiming she isn't a prisoner, Iriche declares her intention to walk as the butler tries to explain. A carriage travels down the long drive toward the impressive and expansive mansion of Rosa Wepris. Wearing a white travel hood, Iriche gazes out of the carriage window upon arriving at the estate. A notification announces their arrival at the estate of Lady Rosa Wepris for the planned visit. Iricha thinks about the danger of the town and fears her father might shave her head bald. She concludes that Count Suda would never want a bald bride, reaffirming her need for a disguise. Irech hands a letter to a servant, instructing him to deliver it to Lady Amita on Plump Street. The servant bows respectfully as Ireche walks away through the luxurious grounds of the Wepers estate. A maid explains that the mistress is busy with other guests and asks Ireche to mate. Gazing over the balcony, Ireche is awestruck by the sheer extravagance and beauty of the mansion's interior. Recalling Rosa's stunning presence at the ball, Ireche admires her graceful eyes and elegant lowered gaze. Iriche tries to mimic Rosa's sophisticated posture by tilting her chin high and lowering her eyes. Straightening her shoulders, Ireche continues her attempt to emulate the poised and refined stance of her idol. Touching the golden railing, Iriche wonders if she will one day fit into this world like Rosa. Ireche contemplates the uncertainty of the future while walking through the grand mansion. Suddenly, Ireche hears a voice calling her a stupid woman and stops in surprise. Turning toward a closed door, Ireche indignantly asks who just spoke those rude words. Feeling dismissed, she walks away, convincing herself the insult couldn't possibly be for her. Ireche stops to check her surroundings, ensuring she is truly alone in the quiet hallway. Pausing by a door, she hears men inside mocking a woman for playing at business. Her curiosity piqued, Ireche peeks through the crack of the door to see the speakers. Inside, the jeweler Datio asks his companion if Rosa really thinks she can sell something for 150 gold. Ireche listens as the man advises playing along to avoid making Rosa suspicious of their scheme. Datio laughs, claiming Rosa has so much money that she will pay whatever they ask. The jeweler smugly reveals that they have already bribed the appraiser to facilitate their scam. Horrified by what she has overheard, Ireche realizes that the men are actively trying to scam Rosa. Ireche stands frozen, her expression one of pure shock as the gravity of the plot sinks in. When the room suddenly falls silent, Ireche grows nervous and wonders what caused the sudden change. From inside the room, a man reaches toward the door handle, his hand appearing through the opening. The man pushes the door open, sounding confused as to why it was left ajar. He wonders aloud if he simply forgot to shut the door firmly when he entered the room. Hiding behind the panel, Ireche remains perfectly still, her heart racing as she avoids being spotted. Once safe, she resolves that she must find a way to warn Rosa about the swindlers. In a luxurious parlor, Rosa Wepris welcomes her guests and thanks them for returning to visit. Sitting opposite her, Datio insists that they are the ones who should be grateful for the invitation. Datio presents his jewelry cases, encouraging Rosa to take her time viewing the specially selected pieces. As Rosa admires a ring, Datio praises her as a top client and urges her to try it on. Rosa examines the jewelry on her hand, her expression unreadable as Datio maintains his polite facade. Silent and focused, Rosa continues to study the craftsmanship of the ring presented to her. Datio presents a diamond bracelet, claiming it was reserved just for her and will bring great reward. His assistant adds that the platinum setting is exquisite and perfectly suits a woman of Rosa's stature. Rosa looks up with a slight smile, questioning if the jewelry truly fits her as well as they claim. The jeweler responds with absolute certainty, continuing to flatter her while hiding his true, greedy intentions. Datio's attention shifts to a box on the sofa, and he asks Rosa about its contents. He reaches out to open the mysterious container, his curiosity momentarily distracting him from a sales pitch. Rosa remains poised and calm, watching the jeweler as he interacts with the items in her parlor. Ireche suddenly appears at the doorway, cheerfully asking Rosa if she is permitted to enter the room. Rosa smiles warmly, noting their guest's arrival, and mentioning she had heard from the butler. Entering the room, Ireche apologizes for the interruption, explaining that she was misinformed by a maid. Rosa invites Ireche to join them and view the beautiful jewelry that she is struggling to choose from. Sitting by Rosa, Ireche praises her beauty and expresses her delight at seeing such fine pieces together. Datio introduces himself formally as a jeweler from the luxury district of Teledive Street with a bow. Ireche recalls Amita's warning about Teledive swindlers and recognizes the man before her as a fraud. Rosa introduces Ireche to the men, describing the young woman as a friend she has recently made. The men comment on the fineness of their friendship, while Ireche keeps her focus on their suspicious behavior. Datio suggests they all examine a specific piece together as he prepares to unveil the next item. He holds up a necklace, calling the piece magnificent and waiting for the women's reactions of awe. Rosa asks about the name of the unusual stone, admitting she has never seen anything like it before. Watching from the side, Ireche remains skeptical, certain the necklace isn't worth a fraction of the price. Datio claims the turquoise is imported and has a magical legend of changing color during times of danger. When Rosa asks for clarification, Datio insists the stone is of the finest quality and highly reactive. Rosa turns to her associate, Frau, and asks him to provide his professional opinion on the piece. Frau takes the necklace, noting that the jeweler's description has jogged his memory regarding such rare stones. Looking slightly uneasy, Dario asks the appraiser if he is truly familiar with the properties of turquoise. Irish claims her late father was a professional gem appraiser, surprising the group with her background. Iriche states her familiarity with turquoise, while Dario nervously warns her not to touch it carelessly. Rosa questions the extent of Iriche's knowledge regarding the specific properties of exotic turquoise stones. Iriche explains she learned about exotic gemstones from her father's passion for collecting unusual items. Dario reacts with skeptical laughter, questioning the validity of Iriche's claim about her father's profession. Iriche confirms she gained extensive and significant expertise from him before his unfortunate, untimely passing. Looking increasingly nervous, Dario asks Iriche for her professional opinion on the piece's actual quality. Rosa redirects the request for an opinion to her official jewelry expert, the man named Frau. Frau examines the necklace and confirms it is indeed a high-quality piece of genuine turquoise. Iriche privately doubts his assessment, wondering if the quality is truly as high as he claimed. Frau asks the group if the piece is actually worth the requested 150 gold coins. Frau affirms his valuation as his final opinion when Rosa asks for his professional confirmation. Iriche thinks about the beauty of the necklace while deciding not to press her case further. Rosa and Iriche sit together on the luxurious sofa, observing the jewelry on the table. Rosa asks Iriche for her honest advice on whether she should purchase the presented necklace. Iriche suggests a purchase is only wise if the final price is truly reasonable and fair. Dario inwardly fumes, dismissing Iriche's supposed knowledge as nothing more than useless and unrefined scraps. Descriptive text highlights the rare nature and fine craftsmanship of the turquoise gemstone jewelry piece. Dario claims he is offering a generous discount from the piece's original 200 gold value. He continues to flatter Rosa, claiming the gem's true worth is found in her ownership. Dario insists that the necklace is worth every bit of the requested 150 gold coins. Iriche bursts into laughter, mocking the high price and shocking the men in the parlor. She mockingly asks Dario if he was actually serious about charging such an exorbitant amount. Dario flinches in visible shock, his composure breaking under Iriche's bold and sudden mockery. He begins to panic, wondering if Iriche actually received proper training from her appraiser father. Laughing nervously, Dario admits he was caught and declares that the deal is now ruined. He tries to play it off as a joke, claiming he was merely teasing the group. Rosa's expression turns cold and skeptical as she repeats his weak excuse about it being a joke. Iriche demands Frau state the actual price before Dario attempts another deceptive and manipulative joke. A diagram illustrates the deceptive collusion between the greedy merchant and the dishonest, bribed appraiser. Frau nervously revises the estimate down to 70 gold coins to save his own reputation. Iriche remains skeptical, questioning if even 70 gold coins is an overvaluation for the piece. Frau suddenly claims to notice a stone flaw, dropping the price further to 60 gold. Dario is enraged by Frau's clumsy betrayal and failure to maintain their coordinated jewelry scam. Dario changes his story, claiming he never actually intended to sell the necklace to her. Dario is shown bowing politely in a different outfit as he acts with exaggerated humility. He claims his true intention was to give the necklace to Rosa as a gift. Rosa responds with sharp, cold sarcasm to his desperate attempt at damage control and excuses. Iriche watches warily, silently hoping that Rosa does not fall for his latest desperate lie. Rosa addresses Dario while an aura of sharp, menacing thorns surrounds her elegant sitting form. She coldly suggests his stashed wealth is more than enough for his immediate forced retirement. Outside the mansion, guards escort the men away as Iriche asks Rosa if she's all right. Rosa explains she is accustomed to betrayal, and it won't ruin her time with Iriche. Rosa taps her pipe into the ashtray, noting that most approach her only for gain. She expresses her disappointment at being unable to find a merchant she can truly trust. Iriche asks if she will report them, but Rosa explains the law ignores immoral women. Rosa reveals she has her own methods of justice that are far scarier than the law. Iriche is stunned, wondering what could possibly be more frightening than facing formal legal consequences. Rosa mentions her connections will ensure the men never show their faces in the city. Closing the unpleasant matter, Rosa warmly thanks Iriche for her assistance and sharp, keen eyes. Iriche reveals that she overheard the swindler's earlier conversation and knew she had to help Rosa. She confesses how nervous she was, fearing her lie about her background would be exposed. Rosa is impressed, stating Iriche knew more about gems than her own professional appraiser did. Iriche asks with a playful smile if she actually said anything about gems earlier. Rosa remains silent, her expression shifting into a state of quiet, thoughtful confusion regarding Irish's remark. Rosa concedes that perhaps her memory was simply wrong about the details of their conversation. Rosa admits Iriche's wisdom, but questions why she didn't warn her privately before the meeting. Iriche explains that without proof, she would have only been branded a liar for speaking up. Rosa expresses her deep gratitude and offers Iriche anything she wants as a reward. Iriche clarifies she didn't help for a reward, but has a specific favor to ask. Boldly taking Rosa's hands, Iriche begs for the opportunity to be hired by the businesswoman. Rosa listens as Iriche lists her skills in math, sales, and confident business negotiations. Iriche offers to prove her worth, but Rosa says it's unnecessary after seeing her earlier performance. Rosa reflects on a blonde man named Cassis and wonders if he understands Iriche's true intentions. The scene shifts as Rosa recalls sending an invitation to the mysterious master of a house. A blonde man stands silhouetted, famously never stepping beyond the gates of his grand family estate. Iriche wonders aloud why the consent of this man, Cassis, should even matter to her plans. Rosa mentions the rumor of their engagement, noting that men dislike wives meddling in business. Rosa questions if their relationship hasn't progressed to a proposal or a hand in marriage yet. The blonde man looks away with a somber expression as the topic of their marriage lingers. Iriche ponders the idea of a proposal, comparing her situation to the life Rosa has built. She believes Rosa might understand feelings that her own mother and Amita never truly grasped. Iriche explains that under a father's or husband's authority, she could never live her own will. She declares her desire to seize this opportunity and finally prove her own worth and capability. Iriche worries that she might not be able to fulfill the expectations Cassis has for her. Rosa expresses understanding, reflecting on many women who flee home to escape cruelty or seeking status. Several birds gather on a lush, flowering branch, representing the different paths women take in life. A bride stands before a priest and attendants, illustrating the formal expectations of her life. A portrait of Cassis is described as a perfect man, wealthy, kind, handsome, and without blemish. Rosa acknowledges that Iriche surely realizes what a rare and precious gift a man like Cassis is. A bride stands before a line of attendants, illustrating the formal expectations of her noble life. Rosa smiles, noting that Iriche possesses the hunger to reach for things others never could. Confused by the term, Iriche listens as Rosa defines drive as a bold hunger for achievement. Rosa explains that only the bold are prepared to face risk to achieve their personal goals. Iriche laughs joyfully, feeling empowered by Rosa's validation of her ambition and her new path. Outside on a city street, a woman notices a messenger boy and worries about a missing word. A dark-haired man intercepts the boy, demanding to know who gave him the message he carries. The terrified boy explains a man gave him the letter to deliver to the woman's home. The boy begs to be released, swearing that he has told them everything he knows. The man growls at the boy, accusing Iriche of running away and causing trouble for everyone. An older man with a mustache demands the stolen note, fearing the consequences of her escape. A hand carefully unfolds a plain piece of paper, preparing to read the message left behind. The letter confirms Iriche's final farewell to Amita, stating her intention to leave Minay and write later. The mustachioed man orders his men to search the streets and catch Iriche before she escapes. He panics over a drained dowry and the threat of ruin if the bride isn't returned. His thoughts reveal that his entire family's future depends on fulfilling the marriage contract with Iriche. The dark-haired man orders the group to scatter and search every corner of the city. He curses Iriche for dragging everyone into trouble instead of surrendering to her arranged fate. He decides to interrogate the boy further, realizing the letter's origin is too difficult to trace. A carriage speeds through the street while a man inside expresses his deep disdain for the noble quarter. The black-haired man discusses how times have changed, with some women fleeing marriage while others thrive after divorce. The young boy asks with shock if the woman mentioned was unfaithful to her husband. Staring out the window, the black-haired man dismisses the former husband as a fool for his choices. His companion asks what he is watching, but the black-haired man claims there is nothing outside. As they prepare to resume their talk, the black-haired man suddenly stops in surprise. He recognizes a woman passing by as the Count's daughter, noting the striking resemblance. The man insists it must be her, claiming that only she possesses eyes like that. A man with a gray mustache declares they have finally found the girl they were seeking. The red-haired maid greets Iriche at the carriage, asking if her meeting went well. Iriche apologizes for the delay, explaining that her conversation took much longer than expected. The maid urges her to hurry inside before the master realizes she slipped out. She notes the master wouldn't scold her, but caution is better. Iriche laughs in agreement. A sudden jolt causes everyone to scream in panic, wondering what happened outside the carriage. The carriage races down the cobblestone street at a dangerous and frantic speed. Iriche asks what happened, and the driver apologizing, saying he accidentally whipped the horses wrong. The servants worry about the increasing speed, but the driver claims the horses are just agitated. The red-haired maid shouts for him to slow down before he hits a pedestrian. Ireche notices the coachman is limping and suspects he has lost his balance while driving. The carriage speeds past the pursuers, leaving them behind as the group looks on in confusion. The pursuers realize they cannot catch the carriage, frustrated that their target got away. They suspect the carriage fled after seeing them and decide to report her presence to the count. Cassis learns that Ireche went out and wonders why she would leave the estate. He expresses concern, noting that her pursuers are currently searching all over the city. His butler explains she was too stubborn to stay, so he provided a carriage and servant. Cassis reflects on the Count's many spies, knowing her departure was likely discovered immediately. When asked who accompanied her, the butler confirms he sent a personal maid and a servant. He adds that the master's own servant insisted on driving the carriage as the coachman. Cassis looks thoughtful as he absorbs the details of Ireche's secret outing. The butler asks if he will search for her, but Cassis trusts the servant he sent. Ireche worries if Cassis will be upset, telling herself she was only meeting a friend. She clutches her dress, believing that Cassis would never truly restrict her personal freedom. Despite her confidence, she fears that he might still feel a bit displeased with her actions. She recalls their childhood, remembering how Cassis was always there when her father drove her out. Returning to the estate, Ireche finds Cassis waiting and announces her arrival with a soft voice. Cassis offers a warm, gentle smile as he welcomes her back to the grand house. He observes that she is quite late considering how long ago she left for her meeting. The driver claims he took a wrong turn, but assures Cassis there was nothing to worry about. Cassis praises his efforts, but the two men exchange a look of intense, unspoken understanding. The red-haired maid scolds the driver for downplaying the danger of their near accident. Cassis ignores the squabble and informs Ireche that dinner will be served very soon. Ireche asks why he hasn't questioned her, but he reveals he knows she saw Madame Rosa. Washing her hands, she asks if he is curious why she went out alone. Cassis points out that she never asks where he goes, turning the question back on her. Ireche realizes she has begun to worry about Cassis's reactions without even realizing it. Cassis says he will share his day if she's curious, noting her care makes him happy. Ireche admits her curiosity and asks if he is truly not upset by her secret trip. Cassis notes he wouldn't have learned letters from her if he were the type to get angry. He admits he rarely shares stories because he fears she would find his life too boring. Excitedly, Ireche rejects the idea of boredom and begs him to tell her about his day. Cassis explains he briefly met an old acquaintance from Linter who was visiting the city. Cassis concludes his brief story, asking the purple-haired woman if she found his day boring. Alicia leans forward eagerly, asking for more details about the topics he and his acquaintance discussed. Cassis explains that business matters were involved, and Ileche concedes that his privacy makes sense. During dinner, Cassis asks Ileche if she had any interesting or noteworthy experiences during her day. Ileche explains that her visit with Madame Rosa involved private matters discussed specifically between women. Cassis wonders if his presence earlier today made her feel uncomfortable while Madame Rosa was visiting. Ileche laughs, clarifying that she merely had more to discuss with Rosa after the woman left. While being served, Ileche wonders when she should reveal her decision to work for Madame Rosa. Cassis notes he spent a long time waiting for her return, as he rarely waits for anyone. He reflects on the feeling of waiting for someone he shares his space with to return home. Ileche looks at him with a puzzled expression, asking for clarification on the meaning of his words. Cassis stands before a tall tower, appearing as a man who is famously distant and reclusive. Ileche asks if he felt lonely, but Cassis admits he has grown far too used to being alone. As she eats, Ileche feels a pang of sympathy for Cassis despite his lack of self-pity. Ileche asks to learn more about him and invites him to attend Madame Rosa's upcoming party. She encourages him to accompany her, mentioning that Rosa extended a formal invitation to the gathering. Ileche tries to reassure him, explaining that it will only be a small gathering with few people. Cassis notes that even a small event might feel overwhelming for an unsociable man and inexperienced woman. Cassis looks away thoughtfully, contemplating the social pressure of attending a party in the noble quarter. Noticing his hesitation, Ileche asks Cassis if the idea of attending the party truly bothers him. Cassis admits he only knows etiquette from books and feels unprepared for actual social environments. He recalls a past of eating simple bread in the streets, never learning basic table manners. Looking at a salad, he confesses that he often cannot distinguish what is edible from what isn't. Ileche laughs, admitting she thought he was just picky, and suggests he simply follow the other's lead. She waves her fingers dismissively, claiming that the worst people will say is that he is impolite. Cassis questions if being impolite is acceptable. Ileche explains that people will gossip regardless of his manners. Cassis concedes her point, realizing that being labeled impolite is a minor consequence in the grand scheme. Ileche notes that no one truly sees his heart. They only see a man leaving food behind. She playfully suggests that onlookers will just assume he is a picky eater and want his food.
Cassis watches her as she jokes about people wanting to eat his delicious meal for him.
Returning to her original question, Ileche asks Cassis once more if he will go with her. Ileche bursts into a bright, joyful laugh as the atmosphere between them lightens significantly during dinner. They walk through a stunning, lit greenhouse, which Ileche describes as a literal paradise on earth. She thanks Cassis for the beautiful stay, mentioning she will remember it even if she leaves. Cassis stops abruptly, his expression darkening as he notes her words sounded like a final farewell. Clasping her hands behind her back, Ileche reminds him that guests must eventually leave their hosts. Cassis stands frozen in the shadows of the greenhouse, appearing deeply unsettled by the mention of departure. Cassis reflects on his true intentions for her stay, while Ileche reveals she asked Rosa for work. Ileche excitedly shares that Rosa agreed to hire her and even offered a spot in the dormitory. Cassis looks pained as Ileche explains her deep need to repay the kindness she has received. He warns her that Count Casa is still searching for her and the situation remains extremely dangerous. Ileche stands her ground, reminding Cassis that he is already aware of the nightmares she suffers. She reflects on how her current happiness feels fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. Recalling her night terrors, she explains that every morning she wakes with a renewed, firm resolve. She questions the purpose of running away if she simply allows fear to cage her entire life. Cassis insists she is safe and free here, asking if that isn't enough to satisfy her. Ileche looks down sadly, stating that the specific freedom he offers isn't the one she seeks. She declares her desire to seize her own chances and asks him to be happy for her. Cassis stares at her with a look of profound hurt, unable to bridge the gap between them. Cassis asks why he cannot be the source of her happiness, reminding her of his past question. Ileche wonders if his concern stems from the fact that she currently possesses nothing of her own. She reflects on how he always claims to be indebted to her for their shared childhood past. Looking at her hands, she questions if he feels a burden of responsibility toward her because of it. Cassis looks deeply wounded by her suggestion, asking if she truly believes his feelings are merely based on pity. Cassis passionately declares that he knows his own heart and only desires for her to stay by his side. Ileche is momentarily stunned into silence by the intensity and sincerity of his sudden, heartfelt emotional outburst. A warm memory of their childhood shows them laughing together in a sun-drenched field filled with flowers. Returning to the present, Ileche remains firm in her resolve to work for Rosa despite his obvious disapproval. She admits she will live selfishly to chase her dreams, but refuses to sacrifice his happiness for them. Cassis gently takes her hands, assuring her that he understands her character better than anyone else in the world. He explains his lifelong admiration for her and expresses his desire to support her while she pursues her goals. Blushing and kissing her hand, Cassis formally asks for her permission to be her lover and constant companion. The maids whisper about a potential proposal while Cassis warns Ileche to walk carefully down the stairs. Radiating joy, Ileche waves a cheerful goodbye to Cassis as she prepares to depart for her first day. The scene shifts to a bright garden party where elite guests are gathered under a white outdoor pavilion. Cassis observes that the blue dress code has been widely followed by the many guests in attendance today. Madame Rosa approaches the couple, her vibrant red hair contrasting with her dark and elegant blue party gown. Ileche and Cassis watch from a distance as the party atmosphere remains lively and full of social chatter. Rosa greets the arrival of her friend, and the two women exchange warm compliments on their lovely appearances. Rosa notes that Cassis' rare public appearance has made him the subject of much curiosity among the guests. Rosa points out the arrival of a new guest, identifying him as the prominent and wealthy Mr. Trapezita. Rosa introduces the bank president to Cassis and Ileche, highlighting her friend's charming and respectable social standing. Mr. Trapezita wipes sweat from his brow while expressing his genuine delight at meeting a man of Cassis' reputation. Cassis offers a polite and measured greeting, acknowledging the introduction to the bank president with formal social etiquette. Cassis maintains a stoic and observant demeanor while navigating the complex social dynamics of the high society gathering. Mr. Trapezita smiles with a predatory gleam in his eyes, thinking that his long-awaited opportunity has finally arrived. The bank president expresses his eagerness to discuss various business matters with Cassis in a more private setting. Ileche offers a handshake to the bank president, deciding that a formal greeting is sufficient for their meeting. Ileche finds the experience of manipulating social interactions through simple gestures to be unexpectedly thrilling and quite satisfying. Rosa suggests that Cassis continue his conversation while she takes Ileche to meet the dedicated atelier staff members. Ileche follows Rosa away from the group, glancing back briefly at Cassis as he handles the banking official. Ileche encourages Cassis to remain confident, telling him not to worry even if he makes a social mistake. Cassis watches her leave with a soft, affectionate smile, appearing comforted by her words of encouragement and support. Rosa leads Ileche toward a group of men standing in the garden, preparing to make a formal introduction. Rosa introduces Clado, the man who will be working closely with Ileche, mentioning she has spoken of her. Clado greets her warmly as the accountant, and Ileche kindly asks him to use her first name instead. Rosa and Ileche share a playful wink while Rosa praises her friend's delightful personality to their new colleague. Rosa explains that Clado manages the atelier's daily operations and will serve as the mentor for Ileche's apprenticeship. Ileche looks forward to their collaboration, while Clado mentions Rosa teased him about a new rival for his position. Clado leans in to whisper that he heard rumors of how she effectively dealt with a notorious local swindler. Ileche modestly dismisses the praise, claiming that standing up for oneself should be considered a basic personal standard. Recalling Rosa's warnings about untrustworthy people, Ileche finds herself feeling that Clado seems like a truly reliable person. She is pleased to note that he appears to have no reservations about working under a woman's professional authority. A servant approaches Rosa, who then excuses herself to attend to other guests, leaving Ileche with her colleagues. A man named Lord Mollis interrupts their conversation, making a polite remark about the enjoyable atmosphere of the party. Rosa introduces Mollis Sinister, noting he is a member of her charity association and works for public security. Narrative text reveals Mollis is the second son of Count Sinister, a position offering him no future inheritance. He secured a bureau position through family influence, using the title for status while merely collecting a salary. Observing his arrogant posture from across the garden, Ileche immediately senses that the man has a cocky personality. Mollis suggests he and Ileche continue their discussion at the atelier during one of his upcoming scheduled visits. Lord Mollis remarks on Rosa's beautiful friend, while Ileche graciously thanks him for the kind compliment. Mollis mentions that he noticed Ileche and her blonde companion arriving at the garden party together. Rosa clarifies that the blonde man is Cassis Oplands, master of the Grandis estate, and her friend. Ileche asks Mollis to release her hand while he questions if Cassis is her financial patron. Ileche denies having a patron. Mollis suggests she was recently brought to society from the back alleys. Mollis offers to become her first patron after she expresses confusion at his offensive and derogatory remarks. Narrative text explains how arrogant people become offended when their improper behavior is rightfully pointed out. Ileche pivots the conversation by asking Mollis if he is familiar with poisons used for cosmetic enhancement. Mollis appears surprised and intrigued by the idea of using toxic substances for a woman's beauty. Visual exposition describes how skin-smoothing cosmetics are derived from the poison of blood-fed carnivorous plants. Mollis questions the poison's safety, and Ileche warns it is lethal only if it is accidentally ingested. Ileche describes accidental poisonings. Mollis is horrified and demands to know why the substance isn't outlawed. Ileche notes the poison's popularity among local noblewomen, challenging Mollis's assumption that it is reckless. Mollis reacts with intense indignation, labeling the use of such dangerous cosmetics as reckless and foolish behavior. Mollis vows to launch an investigation into the matter to prevent a disaster driven by female vanity. Ileche suggests that those who touch others without permission are responsible for any resulting accidental poisoning. She adds that a person wearing the poison would surely have warned others against unwanted physical contact. Mollis agrees with her logic and hopes she never uses such dangerous products as he eats. Ileche suddenly interjects and stops Mollis from eating as he reaches for a small, decorated cupcake. Mollis is completely bewildered and caught off guard by her sudden, urgent physical intervention during the meal. Ileche ominously warns him that touching her skin might lead to his death from her toxic cosmetics. The guests look on with nervous tension while Cassis maintains a stoic and watchful presence nearby. Cassis thinks about the difficulty of social exits and his disdain for the red-haired lord's character. Cassis keeps a calm exterior while observing the awkward social interaction unfolding in the bright garden. Cassis experiences a strange meta-moment, feeling unable to take his leave without the author's explicit permission. The bank official beats a hasty retreat as the atmosphere at the party becomes increasingly uncomfortable. Cassis observes Mollis interacting with Ileche, his expression darkening significantly as he watches them from afar. Enraged, Cassis internally rebukes the red-haired man for daring to touch Ileche with his filthy hands. Ileche's sudden warning causes a cupcake to fall to the grass, emphasizing the danger she just described. Ileche bursts into laughter, revealing that her elaborate story about the poisonous cosmetics was just a prank. Mollis stands frozen in shock as Ileche playfully asks if he found her little joke to be amusing. Ileche dismisses his potential offense, insisting that her teasing was only meant for lighthearted fun and games. Ileche spots Cassis approaching and cheerfully calls out his name to join their conversation in the garden. Cassis wears a triumphant smirk, feeling satisfied that Ileche has successfully landed a psychological blow on Mollis. Ileche explains to the arriving Cassis that she was just having an interesting discussion with Lord Mollis. Ileche formally introduces Cassis Oplands to the red-haired lord as they stand together in the sunlight. Mollis feels a surge of petty jealousy as he notes that the blonde man is slightly taller. Internal thoughts reflect on the perceived vanity of women who are easily swayed by wealthy, foppish men. Cassis politely asks the pair what interesting subject they were discussing before he joined their social group. Ilechi admits she was bored and finds Cassis's arrival to be perfectly timed and very fortunate. Moles is visibly stung by the public implication that his company was boring and uninteresting to Ilechi. Mollis harbors bitter thoughts toward Cassis, resenting how he effortlessly grins his way into favorable social positions. Mollis internally criticizes Ilesh, believing she is being overly selective and arrogant in choosing her companions. The two men stand face to face, exchanging cold and suspicious glances during their tense encounter in the garden. Mollis provocatively asks Cassis why he has not yet stepped up to become Ilesh's official financial patron. He continues his verbal attack by questioning if Ileche is somehow lacking in quality in Cassis's eyes. Cassis firmly states that Ilesh refuses all patronage, leaving Melez reeling because she also avoided his gaze. Mollis feels defeated and frustrated, realizing he has completely lost the battle of wills against the aristocrat. Disturbed by the terrifying intensity in Cassis's expression, Ilesh suggests they go find Madame Rosa instead. Cassis regains his polite mask and agrees to accompany her, leaving the disgruntled and defeated lord behind. Cassis offers his hand, and Ileche wonders if he is the same person who was angry. Lord Mollis grinds his teeth in silent fury as he watches the pair walk away. Cassis looks back coldly at the fuming lord while leading Ileche into the garden. Ileche tells her companion that the man's current frustration is no reason for them to worry. Cassis laughs and says he imagines her harsh words were entertaining after she asks if she overstepped. A sharp clinking sound of a fork against a wine glass signals for everyone's attention. Rosa addresses the gathered guests, inquiring if they are all enjoying the afternoon garden party. The red-haired hostess offers a pleasant smile while overseeing the social atmosphere of the event. Rosa notes Trapezita's eagerness, and the bank president says he cannot disappoint her expectations. Rosa announces she recently acquired a fascinating item from abroad and invites the curious guests to follow. A feminine hand clicks the mechanical trigger of a small, dark device on a table. Madame Rosa holds up a black revolver, her expression one of pride and sophisticated amusement. Guests react with surprise as a loud noise echoes through the garden from the weapon. Rosa identifies the object as a gun, a modern weapon that has not yet been distributed. Text explains that pulling the trigger fires a metal ball to knock down enemies without close combat. Rosa introduces a young expert to provide the guests with a detailed explanation of the gun. Narrative panels explain that the weapon utilizes incanta, a mineral found in volcanic zones. The mineral produces intense heat and possesses explosive properties when it is struck by a hammer. Further details clarify that the mineral's properties gradually disappear as the weapon is fired repeatedly. The expert instructs a guest to aim at the target while bracing for the weapon's recoil. Trapezita yawns, finding the technical explanation boring while Rosa stands with her arms crossed nearby. Rosa waves gracefully toward a group of approaching guests as the demonstration continues in the garden. The garden crowd murmurs with excitement while watching the ongoing demonstration of the mysterious new device. A man exclaims that the weapon is like magic while watching the target get struck. Rosa notes that people from the eastern continent are known for making many mysterious things. A guest mentions magicians live there and asks how Rosa obtained the rare and hard-to-find item. Rosa laughs and warns a curious woman not to swing the dangerous weapon around haphazardly. Rosa encourages guests to take turns and invites those confident in their skills to show off. A gold bar is offered as a prize for the person who hits the target most. Ileche looks on with wide eyes, questioning if such a small thing can truly hurt someone. Cassis narrows his eyes in a silent, intense stare while observing the ongoing shooting competition. Cassis clenches his fist, his gaze fixed on the target as he prepares to step forward. Lord Mollis looks increasingly irritated and resentful as the other guests enjoy the party's activities. Cassis wears a slight, confident smirk, seemingly unfazed by the competitive atmosphere of the gathering. Cassis says he'll be right back. Ileche asks if he intends to participate in the game. Cassis looks over his shoulder with a charm-filled smile and says he thinks it'll be fun. Cassis challenges Lord Moles to a bet, noticing that the red-haired lord seems quite confident. The expert remarks that individuals with athletic reflexes can quickly get the hang of the weapon. Lord Moles agrees to the wager, suggesting they bet Miss Recentia while the expert panics. Cassis tells Moles to shut his smelly mouth and get lost if he wins. Moles mocks him. Cassis prepares his shot, confidently asserting that his opponent's victory simply will not happen today. The expert and Lord Moles stare in complete shock after Cassis successfully lands 3 hits. Cassis remains stoic and elegant after showcasing his superior marksmanship to the surprised garden party. A servant feels a terrifying aura and decides to hide from the intensifying social conflict. Lord Moles scowls at Cassis, defensively telling the blonde man to stop trying to show off. Enraged, Moles yells that the gun must be broken since none of his shots hit anything. Ileche asks how he managed that, and Cassis claims he handled a gun once before. Narrated thoughts reveal Cassis feels there is no need to disclose his full proficiency with weapons. A transition panel focuses on the details of Cassis' formal cravat and his blue vest.
The expert eagerly asks Mr. Oplands for an explanation of how he achieved such precision.
Ileche questions if Cassis secretly knew how to handle the weapon with such incredible precision. The expert expresses shock and asks the blonde man where he acquired such masterful skills. The expert continues gushing with excitement while Ileche looks on with a dazed expression. The expert praises the man, claiming he has never seen someone handle the weapon better. He notes that the weapon would be incredibly convenient if others could use it similarly. Internal thoughts reveal the expert's greedy desire to get rich by using the man's promotion. The expert's imagination runs wild with visions of wealth and success from selling the guns. He eagerly asks the blonde man to demonstrate the impressive triple firing technique once more. Cassis dismisses the feat as a lucky fluke or a broken weapon to avoid further questioning. Cassis leaves to get Ileche a drink while the expert remains in a state of shock. Flashback thoughts reveal Cassis's grim perspective on weapons and the reality of life or death combat. A hand writes with a quill over a pool of blood, symbolizing the cost of war. Narrated text explains that instinct and extreme situations allow humans to perform beyond normal technical limits. That bubbles clarify that purely intuitive combat techniques are nearly impossible to teach to others. Cassis reaches for a glass, resolving to keep his true skills hidden from the public. Cassis reflects that he only showed off to silence the annoying red-haired lord's constant pestering. Cassis maintains his calm and stoic composure as he prepares to move through the garden. Moles grabs at the blonde man's shoulder, demanding to know where he thinks he's billing. Cassis effortlessly dodges the clumsy touch, causing the red-haired man to stumble forward in surprise. Moles accuses him of already being familiar with the weapon despite his earlier denials. Cassis internally expresses his annoyance that Moles is still dragging out this uninteresting social conflict. Cassis reminds Moles of his promise to be quiet and leave if he lost the bet. The red-haired man stands fuming with rage, unable to counter the blonde man's cool logic. Cassis prepares to deliver a final verbal blow as he stands tall before his rival. Cassis turns away and begins to walk across the grass with an air of indifference. Cassis tells the man to stop whining like a child and find somewhere else to play. Cassis adds that he has no time to indulge him, leaving Moles completely stunned and humiliated. Cassis questions why Moles takes fun wagers so seriously as he walks toward the other guests. Moles stands frozen in the garden, his face flushed red with intense anger and embarrassment. Cassis hands Ileche her drink, telling her it is not worth mentioning the recent unpleasantness. Ileche asks what he said to provoke such a visceral reaction from the red-haired lord. She notes that his words must have been quite powerful to cause such visible fury. Cassis asks if his behavior toward the man made him seem overly reckless or aggressive. Ileche reassures him that he looked amazing and she was proud of his actions.
Cassis seems pleased by the compliment, while Ileche reiterates her pride in his performance.
The pair shares a lighthearted moment as Cassis humorously asks for confirmation of his coolness. Ileche looks at him with wide, curious eyes, clearly affected by his sudden change in mood. Cassis suddenly leans in close, wrapping his arm around her waist in an intimate gesture. Flustered, Ileche blushes and asks if it is appropriate for them to be so close publicly. Cassis pulls her closer and begins to justify his bold behavior with a romantic explanation. Cassis states that they are a passionate couple and their public affection is not a crime. Ileche reacts with embarrassed shock, noting that he is repeating her own words back to her. Cassis suggests that witnesses will simply view them as two lovers lost in their own world. He playfully adds that onlookers might even feel a sense of jealousy toward their obvious happiness. Ileche buries her face against him, complaining that he has become incredibly sly and charming. Cassis leans in for a kiss while a startled Ileche insists she wasn't being serious. Cassis tells her to simply close her eyes if she does not truly dislike his advances. Ileche closes her eyes and blushes deeply, surrendering to the romantic moment in the garden. The scene focuses on Ileche's neck as she leans back, caught in the intimate embrace. The two move even closer together, sharing a quiet and romantic kiss as the party continues. Cassis and Ileche share a tender, romantic embrace as they close their eyes in the garden. Cassis gently lifts the woman's chin while staring into her eyes with a soft, affectionate expression. Ileche is flustered and blushing intensely while Cassis maintains a cheerful and lighthearted demeanor behind her. Narrative text explains that Medine has 5 police stations, with the first station holding the most power. Officers at the 5th station earn significantly less than even low-ranking constables at the prestigious 1st station. Positions at the 1st station are typically bought by noble families through connections rather than earned by merit. Count Casa expresses frustration over the high costs of searching for his missing daughter. He hopes to recover his financial losses by marrying his daughter off to Count Pseudo after finding her. The man approaches a large stone building, confident that his daughter's attempts to hide will ultimately fail.
An officer asks the visitor his business, and the man identifies himself as the head of House Casa.
The officer asks for a rough explanation of the situation, noting that everyone has their own duties.
Count Casa looks stern and impatient as he simply states that he is searching for a specific person.
The officer notes that abduction or missing person cases are serious and asks for the specific reason.
An enraged Count Casa demands to see a superior officer immediately instead of wasting time with explanations.
The officer hesitates to call a superior for a matter that might not be serious, offering faster processing.
The man shouts that his daughter ran away just before her wedding, causing the officer visible shock. Realizing this involves a count's daughter, the officer suggests treating it as a noblewoman's abduction for immediate reporting.
A speech bubble suggests Sir Semmel listen to the man, identifying the visitor as Count Casa.
A blue-haired officer approaches the scene while the brown-haired officer and Count Casa wait in the office. The blue-haired man introduces himself as Semmel Transibilis and acknowledges the Count's presence. Semmel notes the Casa family is foreign, mocking the man's status as a minor noble or a pretender. Semmel asks if the runaway daughter has ties to Medine or if she was accompanied by a companion.
Casa says she had no companion, but mentions her friend Amita Sodali, prompting Semmel to recall the name.
Casa is shocked that Semmel recognizes the name of the woman he refers to with an insult.
Semmel clarifies that if the woman is as the Count described, then they aren't thinking of the same person.
Semmel finds it strange that a count's daughter would associate with a commoner of such low reputation. Semmel explains the person he knows owns several shops, leading him to conclude it's just a name coincidence. Semmel asks why the man is at the first station if he has already visited the fifth station. Casa explains he hired private investigators who recently spotted his daughter on Pompadio Street before losing her again. Semmel reacts with quiet surprise as a flashback shows Ileche and Rosa walking through the city together.
Casa reveals witnesses saw her leaving Rosa Weffer's mansion and suspects she is hiding there as a maid.
Semmel finds it ironic and amusing that a noble lady would stay with a courtesan to work as a maid. Casa asks if Semmel knows Rosa well enough to go and question her about his daughter himself. Semmel smiles knowingly and suggests that he can easily predict the outcome of such an interaction. Narrated text explains that the police bureau generally avoids Rosa unless they are wearing badges or acting officially.
Panels describe how Rosa welcomed party guests with open arms and held lively, unmissable social events in Medine.
Semmel reflects that Rosa would likely reject a count who came specifically to hunt for his runaway daughter. Rosa supported women from all walks of life until they were capable of standing on their own. Count Casa insists he must find his daughter within 15 days, prompting Semmel to ask why. Semmel acknowledges the daughter's upcoming engagement as a compelling reason for the Count's urgent search. Semmel asks about the contents of a metal briefcase that has been placed on the desk before him. The metal case is opened to reveal a massive pile of shimmering gold coins offered as payment. Semmel feigns modesty, suggesting the police should handle the matter themselves without need for such an offer. Count Casa explains the gold is just in advance and promises to pay double if his daughter is found. Semmel's expression turns greedy and satisfied as he confirms the promise of double payment for each person involved. Semmel shakes the Count's hand, promising to find the girl if provided with a portrait within 10 days. Internal thoughts reveal that Semmel finds the challenge of dealing with tricky noble clients to be quite fun. Semmel bids the Count a polite farewell as the man exits through the station's stone doorway. A speech bubble asks why the man who just left was referred to as a bonus client. Semmel turns to address Moles, the red-haired lord who has just arrived at the police station. Semmel tells Moles he hasn't had a bonus like this runaway daughter case in quite a while. Moles agrees that it has been some time since such an opportunity arose. A stern-looking man with a mustache walks away as the officers watch him depart. Semmel asks Moles if he wants to join the case since they are paying for head. Semmel leans in and puts a friendly arm around the red-haired officer's shoulder. Semmel identifies the girl as Friends Cacher and suspects Rosa Weffer's might be assisting her. Moles warns that Rosa won't cooperate and notes women often change names when fleeing. Semmel comments on the trend of women losing their senses and running away from home. Moles declines the offer, stating he has other business to attend to before leaving. Moles sits alone in the office, his eyes closed as he focuses on his thoughts. Moles reflects on a purple-haired woman, thinking she must have lost her mind to challenge him. Moles wonders if she trusts her own face or the man from Linter she accompanied. Moles decides to investigate the man, believing no businessman is truly clean under scrutiny. A carriage travels down a bright, upscale city street lined with tall, ornate brick buildings. A purple-haired girl steps through a doorway into a room filled with brilliant light. Ileche looks around a luxurious, high-ceilinged room in awe, finding the interior absolutely incredible. Ileche looks down at her surroundings, expressing concern about accidentally making the floor dirty. The girl stands with her mouth open in a wide, blushing expression of pure amazement. A voice suggests that while the piece is fine, Ileche shouldn't be so openly expressive. Rosa stands in a grand boutique as Ileche stands further back in her yellow dress.
Ileche blushes and greets Rosa, telling her that the boutique is absolutely beautiful. Rosa says the place was worth the cost and invites Ileche to come upstairs.
As they walk, Rosa suddenly asks what exactly Cassis does for a living.
Rosa explains that many people were asking about the blonde man after they left. Rosa teases that they drew everyone's attention and then vanished, essentially running away. Rosa smiles over her shoulder as Ileche admits she cannot deny that they fled.
A memory shows Cassis and Ileche leaving the garden party together in a great hurry. Ileche recalls Cassis giving her gold bars as the spoils from his victory over moles. Ileche asks if things went poorly after they left or if Cassis caused any trouble.
Rosa reassures her not to apologize, clarifying she is just curious about the mysterious man. Rosa mentions that a woman named Trapezita told her no one could talk to him.
Ileche defends Cassis, saying he is just a man of few words, not someone antisocial.
Rosa looks away with a thoughtful expression while considering the girl's description of the man.
Narrative text explains that Trapezita was skilled at drawing out stories from curious strangers. A close-up of Cassis's cold eyes accompanies text about his refusal to engage with others.
The narrative concludes that Cassis must have firmly refused to open his mouth to anyone.
Ileche smiles warmly and says that Cassis is actually very kind, despite being a bit shy. Rosa confirms that she is talking about Cassis as Ileche looks back at her. Rosa notes with a slight blush that the man must treasure Ileche very deeply.
Ileche reacts with a shocked, wide-eyed, and intensely blushing face at the older woman's suggestion. Against a pink, heartfelt background, Rosa laughs while Ileche hides her face in embarrassment.
Rosa playfully demands to know if Cassis proposed and if Ileche accepted his offer.
A flustered Ileche stammers that it wasn't a proposal, though she remains visibly affected. Rosa thinks it is endearing to see someone so shameless look so defenseless and flustered.
Rosa reflects that the Cassis Ileche describes is completely different from the one she witnessed.
Rosa notes that the romantic issues Ileche mentioned before seem to have been successfully resolved. Ileche covers her red face with her hands, agreeing and giving credit to Rosa.
Rosa jokes that curious people will flock to her boutique if Ileche stays in the dressing room.
Rosa smiles knowingly, remarking that Ileche is unaware of how much curiosity the man sparked.
Thoughts reveal rumors that Cassis is a powerful figure hiding his identity and resting quietly. Ileche reflects on her companion, wondering about the mysteries surrounding his past and character.
The blonde man sits with a confident smirk, radiating an air of effortless authority.
Ileche finds the deep sense of mystery surrounding his identity to be quite intimidating. Behind the scenes, he remains a man of silence who avoids discussing his personal life.
Rosa pulls the girl aside, whispering a curious request for information about the man. The purple-haired girl proposes using the man's reputation to draw a massive crowd. She enthusiastically predicts the shop will soon be as packed as a royal ballroom. The girl highlights that bringing in more business is more important than secret identities. Rosa pauses, her hand to her chin, as she considers the girl's bold suggestion. With a smirk, Rosa acknowledges the girl's mischievous nature while accepting the clever plan. Rosa notes that strategic silence makes gossip more valuable than an immediate full revelation. A seamstress works diligently at her station within the sunlit and organized sewing room.
Ileche gazes at the busy shop staff, wondering where she fits into the operation.
The purple-haired girl looks up, asking what her responsibilities will be at the boutique. Rosa smirks and tells the girl to start by giving her opinion on a hat. Rosa decides to pause for a moment to facilitate proper introductions with the rest of the staff. Stepping into the main workroom, Rosa commands everyone's full attention for an important announcement.
Rosa proudly introduces Ileche Licencia as the newest member of the boutique's dedicated team.
Ileche offers a polite greeting to her new colleagues, asking them to call her by name. The boutique's diverse staff members warmly welcome their new teammate with bright and friendly smiles. Rosa directs everyone back to their tasks, signaling the end of the brief introduction. Rosa explains she needs a hat for an upcoming party, but remains undecided on the style. Holding out two distinct options, Rosa asks Ileche to choose which one looks better. Feeling put on the spot, Ileche diplomatically states that both hats suit Rosa perfectly.
Rosa pushes for a more specific opinion, asking which hat truly stands out to her.
Rosa asks if the flashier hat would successfully command the attention of everyone present. The purple-haired girl looks a bit flustered as she considers the bold, feathered accessory.
Ileche agrees that the flashy hat would certainly make Rosa the center of everyone's attention.
She jokingly adds that the long feather might even poke nearby guests in the face.
Rosa officially assigns Ileche the role of greeting and managing the boutique's many customers.
Rosa continues her style consultation, asking if a pink brooch is superior to a blue one.
Ileche seeks clarification on her new role, asking if it involves gathering customer preferences.
Rosa explains that while design is for others, Ileche's job is to personally captivate visitors.
The purple-haired girl asks if her ultimate goal is simply to secure more sales. Rosa clarifies that the true objective is building long-term loyalty and recurring customer visits.
Successful business relies on cultivating deep personal connections and an inviting atmosphere for all guests. Developing a keen understanding of individual tastes and practicing gentle persuasion are essential skills. Rosa holds up a shimmering red brooch, signaling that the first training session has begun.
Rosa challenges Ileche to practice on her, identifying herself as the boutique's most frequent visitor. Ileche is shocked to realize Rosa founded the entire shop just to indulge her own shopping.
The realization hits that her first official assignment as a greeter has already started.
Ileche calls out for Rosa to wait as she prepares to offer a different suggestion.
Favoring a more refined look, Ileche recommends a simpler hat over the flashy feathered choice.
Rosa looks surprised as the girl carefully places a more understated hat on her head.
Ileche explains that Rosa's own radiant presence is what truly captures people's eyes, not accessories. She argues that excessive feathers and brooches only serve to distract from Rosa's natural beauty. The desire to look beautiful is a fundamental pursuit for a woman like Rosa. Rosa looks in the mirror with concern, asking if her previous style choices were excessive.
Ileche confesses she once practiced imitating Rosa's grace in hopes of becoming just like her.
The girl beams with genuine affection, having successfully handled her first and most difficult customer. Placing a hat on Rosa, Ileche says she doesn't need ostrich feathers to attract attention.
Ileche tells the red-haired woman that she naturally captures people's eyes more than she realizes.
Rosa reflects that while she has heard many compliments, these particular words feel uniquely sincere. Rosa blushes as she wonders if the praise was truly meant or just felt sincere. Rosa smiles, admitting she never expected such high praise from someone as young and pretty. Rosa asks if Ileche really practiced imitating her in a mirror, making the girl look embarrassed. Rosa expresses her high expectations for the wonderful work Ileche will do for their customers. Ileche beams with a bright, motivated expression, feeling encouraged by the red-haired woman's sincere confidence. Rosa mentions she must leave now to attend a friend's tea party at another location. Looking at the background, the purple-haired girl curiously asks about the men standing behind Rosa. Rosa introduces the two large, stern men as guards she specifically hired for her protection. Rosa explains that she has noticed many suspicious people loitering around her mansion lately. Ileche asks why Rosa is being targeted, and Rosa explains she has made many enemies. Flashback panels illustrate how Rosa's bold presence often disrupts the established social order during public gatherings. Rosa warns Ileche to be careful to avoid being dragged into any pointless or dangerous trouble. Ileche is shocked that people would actually threaten others for reasons that seem so unfair. Rosa explains that guards are vital because people might throw rocks or shout insults at women. Rosa mentions a woman was kidnapped while alone, prompting a shocked reaction from the purple-haired girl. Rosa explains that having a well-known face makes a person an easy target for various dangers.
Ileche worries about her safety and asks if she should cover her face when going out.
Rosa forcefully rejects the idea, telling Ileche not to let fear hide her very pretty face. The red-haired woman points upward, asking why Ileche thinks she pays so much for guards. Rosa reassures her that kidnappings are rare, telling the girl not to worry about the dangers. Ileche worries that city life sounds dangerous, even though Rosa remains completely unfazed by the threats.
Rosa promises to assign guards to accompany Ileche, and the girl offers her sincere thanks.
Ileche recalls how people back home whispered cruel things about women who chose to walk alone. Looking at a rock on the street, Ileche realizes her quiet countryside home might be safer.
Ileche reflects on the city's public order, realizing it might not be as good as thought.
Rosa explains order is bad for women alone and tells her to go to the atelier.
The scene shifts to Ileche traveling through the bright city streets in a horse-drawn carriage.
Cassis waits in a grand, sunlit hallway, wearing a clean white shirt and a gentle smile. Seeing the blonde man, Ileche calls out his name with a bright and happy expression. Cassis gives the girl flowers, saying he thought of her while out for a walk. Ileche thanks him and asks about his day while they stand together in the fun lane. Cassis replies that he had a fun day and met many new people while out. The blonde man thinks to himself that he is eager to hear about her day. Ileche explains that women at the atelier work on designs, even though they aren't usually taught. She mentions that the designers once quit because Rosa tried to teach the female employees drawing. Ileche asks Cassis if he agrees that women understand women's clothing better than anyone else does. Cassis looks at her with a gentle smile and says he completely agrees with her opinion. Ileche excitedly explains that Rosa's atelier creates many comfortable clothes that are easy to move in. Cassis acknowledges her words as Ileche begins to mention someone named Mr. Clado to him. Cassis watches the girl with a warm, affectionate expression while she talks excitedly about her day. Narrative text reveals that Cassis and Rosa plan to purchase paintings to display in the coming days. Cassis admits he feels a bit nervous because he lacks a proper sense for evaluating art. Ileche asks if a sense for art can be learned or if Rosa could teach him. Ileche chews on a grape while sitting comfortably at the table across from her blonde companion. Ileche asks Cassis if he has seen much art before, admitting she mostly saw it recently. She describes the art as impressive and mentions a huge statue located inside the atelier hall.
Aleche blushes while admitting she got so distracted by the statue that Rosa had to find her.
A delicate teacup sits on the table as the sun illuminates the peaceful morning setting. Aleche reaches for a purple grape, enjoying a quiet moment during their morning together. The purple-haired girl wonders if the artwork Rosa plans to show her will be truly breathtaking. Aleche continues to eat, her cheeks puffed out slightly as she focuses on the sweet fruit. Cassis watches the girl with a soft expression, finding her focused eating habits quite amusing. The blonde man offers a gentle smile, clearly enjoying the comfortable atmosphere they share. Cassis adjusts his sleeves, feeling a bit flustered by the girl's natural and innocent charm. The blonde man lets out a soft exclamation, his gaze still fixed on his companion. Aleche looks up with wide, curious eyes, asking the man what is on his mind. Cassis dismisses her question, thinking to himself that watching her eat grapes is incredibly adorable. Cassis notes that liking Rosa's collection proves Aleche already possesses a sophisticated eye for art. The purple-haired girl beams with joy, delighted to receive such high praise from her friend. Cassis exhales a deep sigh of relief, glad that the tense conversation has finally passed. Aleche apologizes for talking about herself too much, worried she has dominated their conversation today. Cassis reassures the girl, telling her that hearing her stories is always a great pleasure. The blonde man smiles warmly at the girl, his heart softened by her genuine enthusiasm. Narrative text explains Cassis is happy Aleche is enjoying her work and time with Rosa. Cassis believes she is happy because she no longer feels the need to disguise herself. A shimmering light surrounds the pair as they share a moment of deep connection and understanding. The blonde man confesses how deeply worried he was about her safety during their time apart. Cassis looks down with a pained expression, reflecting on the fear he felt for her. Narrative text announces the conclusion of the first season as the current story arc reaches its end. Aleche points out that despite his heavy heart, he never once tried to stop her plans. Cassis rubs his forehead, acknowledging the internal struggle he faced between his worry and his respect. The blonde man asks if she remembers how incredibly determined she was when they first started. The purple-haired girl looks surprised, wondering if she really appeared that resolute in his eyes. Cassis recalls telling her she could live happily without enduring the hardships of difficult work. He sadly admits he feared he wasn't part of the future she had envisioned for herself. Cassis reaches out to gently stroke the girl's hair, his touch conveying his deep affection.
Aleche expresses her sincere gratitude to him for respecting her decisions despite his own personal pain.
Leaning across the table, the purple-haired girl takes the man's hand with a tender gesture. Cassis brings her hand to his lips, kissing it softly in a moment of romantic devotion. Aleche's face turns bright red as she reacts with shock to the man's sudden, bold display. Their hands remain tightly clasped together on the table, symbolizing their newfound closeness and commitment. A young man named Gator enters a rural cabin, calling out for the boss's location. ICAB angrily blames the other for giving the wrong timing and forcing him to dodge police. Gator mocks the dark-haired man, suggesting he was just drunk and would be dead if caught.
The red-haired youth tells his companion to stop whining like a baby since they weren't caught.
ICAB warns that the boy only talks back because he hasn't truly faced the boss's wrath. Gator calls the boss generous, while ICAB suggests he is simply very good at keeping secrets. The blonde man known as Cassis steps into the room, revealing his secret role as leader. Cassis acknowledges his subordinates, asking why the rest of the crew has not yet arrived. Gator complains that the local count is overworking them for very little pay on rotating shifts. The dark-haired man asks if the young lady should be allowed to wander while police are alert. Cassis sharply tells the man that the boss will personally handle whatever happens to the lady. Gator laughs at the other's cowardice, while ICAB grows increasingly irritated by the constant mockery. Cassis commands both Gator and ICAB to stop their bickering immediately, ending the petty dispute. ICAB defends himself by claiming the red-haired boy was the one being rude to him first. Cassis warns Gator to watch his mouth, threatening consequences if he continues to disrespect the others. The blonde leader reassures them that the local police are amateurs compared to their own skilled team. ICAB asks his companions to remain patient for a few more days while they wait. Cassis instructs Gator to keep the dark-haired man updated on the count's situation in real time. The blonde leader commands his members to intervene immediately if any difficult situation arises for them.
As Aleche smiles with her flowers, Cassis emphasizes that her safety is their absolute top priority.
Gator confidently assures the boss that they have sufficient experience to handle the protection mission successfully. The red-haired youth jokingly claims to be the Cupid of love, protecting their future sister-in-law. ICAB mocks his companion, reminding him of the time the boss hit him for being foolish.
Gator offers a quick apology, looking sheepish after being reminded of his previous mistakes and behavior.
Cassis notes that their current job should be completed quickly without any significant delays or issues. A stern warning follows, stating that losing focus and allowing harm to the girl is unacceptable. The blonde man threatens his subordinates with lethal consequences if they fail to protect the girl. Gator nods in silent agreement, clearly intimidated by the boss's cold and terrifyingly serious expression. The two men whisper to each other, questioning the boss's generosity after hearing such a threat.
Inside the carriage, Rosa complains about socialites who wore the same hat as her recently.
Ileche asks if imitation is truly bad since it means people are buying from their atelier.
Rosa explains that constant copying forces her to perpetually seek out new dresses and expensive accessories. The purple-haired girl looks surprised, contemplating the exhausting reality of being a famous local fashion icon.
Ileche feels confused because Rosa previously seemed pleased when the girl mentioned imitating her bold behavior.
Rosa clarifies that others coveting her possessions is a completely different matter from Ileche personally imitating her.
Narrative text notes that Rosa's love for breaking conventions makes the imitation of others highly annoying.
Rosa complains that while people gossip behind her back, their imitation is what drives her extravagance. The red-haired woman laments that she has no choice but to constantly find new, unique items. Rosa prepares to smoke, calling it foolish for others to copy styles that don't suit them. Narrative panels describe Rosa discarding a favorite hat because an unbecoming woman wore the same design. Exhaling smoke, the red-haired woman expresses how truly unfortunate it is to lose items she likes. Ileche suggests that Rosa could simply wear a different new hat every day of her life.
Rosa offers a soft, amused smile while listening to the purple-haired girl's practical and innocent suggestions.
The girl excitedly suggests promoting the discarded hat at the atelier since Rosa won't wear it. Rosa laughs, jokingly wondering if the purple-haired girl is actually the true owner of the atelier.
The horse-drawn carriage comes to a halt in front of a grand and prestigious city building. Ileche realizes they have arrived at the auction house much earlier than the originally scheduled date.
The red-haired woman looks ahead with a sharp, calculating gaze as they prepare to enter the building.
Rosa reveals that she has paid for a special privilege allowing her to purchase items in advance.
Rosa admits she pays a massive annual fee for this right, which Ileche finds quite reasonable.
Ileche asks what happens if nothing interests her, and Rosa admits she simply accepts the loss.
The purple-haired girl wonders if there's a secret, more important reason for visiting the auction house. A close-up reveals Ileche's curious expression as she observes the opulent interior of the grand hall. The scene showcases the magnificent architecture and sparkling chandeliers inside the elite and wealthy auction house. The two women sit together at a private table, beginning a quiet and refined tea service.
Ileche notes the unusual teacup lacks a handle and possesses an incredibly smooth and elegant ivory shape.
Rosa asks if the cup is pretty, and Ileche praises the beautiful color of the fine porcelain. The purple-haired girl is shocked to learn the rare porcelain originates from the distant eastern continent. Mr. Insti explains that the secret production method makes the porcelain exceptionally rare in their region. A delicate hand rests on the table as the two women continue their sophisticated morning tea.
Ileche remarks on the auction house's remarkable reputation for acquiring such rare products from the East.
Rosa expresses her desire for a set, but Mr. Insti notes top pieces are for the king. The red-haired woman tells Mr. Insti that these specific cups are a primary reason she visits. The blue-haired man meticulously prepares the tea, his movements refined and practiced for his high-class guests. Ileche beams with pure joy, finding the sight of flowers blooming inside her teacup absolutely breathtaking. Mr. Insti announces that the new art pieces for the upcoming auction have finally been delivered. Rosa explains that the piece is by an emerging artist focused on themes of self-reflection. The red-haired woman looks away, seemingly unimpressed by the selection of artwork before her. Rosa asks Mr. Insti if the painting's colors are too dull for summer for the atelier reception. Mr. Insti suggests a piece by the same artist the madam purchased during her last visit. Ileche asks if there are other works by that artist, and Mr. Insti offers a showing. Rosa winks and asks Mr. Insti if he knows what to do with the other pieces. Mr. Insti assures her the remaining artwork she did not choose will be handled properly. Standing near the balcony, Ileche wonders what Rosa means by having the unsold pieces handled. Rosa explains rejected pieces are sent elsewhere so they are not sold locally to anyone else.
Ileche looks on in surprise, realizing the lengths Rosa goes to maintain her unique style.
Rosa admits she spends large sums to be the first to see and own items.
Ileche wonders if this is a prestige maintenance cost required to uphold the woman's social reputation.
Ileche reflects on high-class expectations while the pair prepares to continue their business dealings.
The girl realizes Rosa brought her along specifically to teach her how to treat wealthy clients. The grand city building glows under the night sky as the day's activities come to an end. A maid bids the girl sweet dreams, while Ileche wishes her lady a restful night's sleep. Ileche remarks on the long day before noticing someone else is still awake nearby. Cassis greets Ileche, noting that she is still awake and assuring her that he is fine. The purple-haired girl smiles warmly, asking the blonde man where he went at such a late hour. Cassis stares at her silently, a complex expression crossing his face in the dim light.
Cassis explains that he could not sleep, so he went for a short ride outside instead.
Alice reaches for his hand, asking if he is hungry since he was unable to sleep. The girl mentions she was going to the kitchen and needed an accomplice for her plan. Cassis is surprised she is doing it herself rather than sending a servant to the kitchen. Alice believes it would be rude to wake the sleeping staff for a late-night snack.
Cassis offers a gentle smile, clearly charmed by the girl's kind consideration for the household staff.
Inside the dark kitchen, Alice begins searching for ingredients while Cassis watches her with interest. The girl focuses intently on the task at hand, preparing to make a simple meal. Cassis asks if she is making sandwiches as he stands beside her in the quiet room.
Alice recalls the specific kind of sandwiches she used to make for him during their childhood.
Cassis agrees with a smile, sharing a nostalgic moment of connection with the purple-haired girl.
The pair sits together at the table with a single sandwich prepared for their late meal.
Cassis notes the sandwich is dry and tastes bad, offering to make some tea instead.
Alice laughs, reminding him that this dry taste is exactly how they used to eat. Cassis admits he missed this dish and feels like he is currently in a dream.
The two sit close together in the dim kitchen, enjoying the simple food and memories. Alice agrees that being together like this feels like a very good dream to her. Cassis calls her name, overwhelmed by a tingling sense of happiness that makes his heart burst. The blonde man places his hand on her waist, drawing her closer in the silence.
Alice gasps as Cassis suddenly brings her close, his expression becoming serious and very intense.
Cassis reflects on a familiar, fierce flickering in his eyes that he has felt before.
Alice feels caught in his intense gaze, unable to escape the powerful emotion he shows.
The girl asks the man if he knows what kind of look he has given her.
Cassis admits her stare makes him feel dizzy and breathless when she looks at her.
Touching his face, the purple-haired girl asks the blonde man if he likes the feeling. Closing her eyes, Alice softly admits that she actually likes the intense feeling herself. The two share an intimate gaze, their faces close as the romantic tension peaks between them.
Cassis grips the fabric of her dress tightly, his hand trembling from his internal emotional struggle.
The pair remains in an intimate embrace, their shared feelings finally coming to the surface. Alice confesses her heart feels like it will explode because she doesn't know what to do. Cassis gently strokes Alesh's purple hair, his hand lingering as the romantic tension builds.
The two share a passionate kiss and a long embrace in the quiet, dim kitchen.
Their fingers interlace as the blonde man looks at her and softly says her name.
A quiet moment of intimacy passes as their hearts beat in sync during the late-night encounter.
A sweet and playful moment captures the couple sharing a heart-filled chibi kiss in the kitchen. Cassis pulls her into a firm embrace, his grip tightening as if never wanting to let go. Looking into her eyes, the blonde man asks the girl to tell him she loves him too. The purple-haired girl looks up at him and tenderly confesses that she loves him too. Hearing her confession, Cassis breaks into a radiant and relieved smile of pure, unadulterated joy. Overjoyed, the blonde man pulls her back into his arms and whispers his deep love. As the night concludes, the focus shifts to the morning sun rising over the grand estate. The transition shows the estate bathed in early light, signaling the start of a new day. Alice reflects on how she fled to work this morning, unable to face Cassis after last night. The purple-haired girl is suddenly surprised when a beautiful bouquet of purple flowers is presented to her. Cassis reveals himself behind the flowers, smiling as he tells the girl he has been waiting. Blushing deeply, the girl accepts the lovely bouquet and shyly thanks the blonde man for his gift. Clutching the flowers, the purple-haired girl looks down, still feeling overwhelmed by the man's romantic gestures. The blonde man leans in, asking the girl to look at him if she is truly thankful. Cassis repeats his request with an intense gaze, urging the girl to meet his eyes once more. Alice questions his lack of shyness, while Cassis admits he hasn't slept a wink since last night. The girl accuses him of being experienced with women, but he wonders why she thinks that way. Overcome with embarrassment at her teasing, the blonde man covers his face to hide his deep blush. A soft breeze catches her hair as they share a quiet, lingering moment in the sunny garden. The girl's eyes sparkle with realization and affection as she continues to observe his bashful reactions.
Alice insists he is good at romance, while the blonde man begs her not to say that.
Cassis thinks to himself that facing the girl was far more important than any lingering embarrassment. The pair shares a happy laugh, holding hands as they enjoy each other's company in the garden. The scene shifts to an office where men discuss the necessity of a portrait for a search. Men discuss their failed undercover mission near the Waypraise estate and the difficulty of home searches. Narrative text explains the strict privacy and high status of mansions located on wealthy Pompadour Street. A blue-haired man warns that bothering the wealthy residents of that area will lead to serious trouble. An older man reports that Count Pseudo has decided to annul the engagement, much to the other's shock. Someone bangs a hand on the table, frustrated because they promised to find his daughter soon. The older man informs the Count that he won't be taking the dowry back after the annulment.
The red-haired man reports that they still haven't located the daughter of their important bonus client.
They speculate if the missing girl died on the streets, but note a report would exist. Finishing his own work, the red-haired man offers to help search for the client's missing daughter. Taking the portrait, the red-haired man expresses hope that the missing girl is a pretty one. Unrolling the portrait, the red-haired man is shocked to see the face of the purple-haired girl.
Back home, Ileche recalls that Cassis was meeting with a guest in the second-floor study earlier.
The purple-haired girl thinks about how she has never even seen a guest's shadow here before. Deciding to head to her room, the girl thinks she should change out of her clothes first. Passing the study, the girl pauses as she realizes the guest's voice sounds strangely familiar to her. Inside, Cassis complains about dumping work on a retired man and managing a group of uncontrollable rascals. The older man remarks that Cassis wouldn't be doing this unless he sold his conscience to the devil. Cassis notes everyone had fun while he was away and plans to wrap things up and return. The blonde man coldly threatens to throw troublemakers into Parada, where they'd beg for sharks instead. Overhearing his terrifying and unfamiliar tone, Ileche stands outside the door, paralyzed with shock and fear. Haunted by his words, the girl wonders about their relationship and the man's true hidden nature. The girl sits in her room, startled when the blonde man arrives and calls out her name.
Cassis explains the guest just left and apologizes for keeping Ileche waiting, while she assures him it was no trouble.
The girl mentions it was loud downstairs and asks if something happened, noting the butler told her to ask him. A maid happily announces that she bought gifts for everyone using the money from her very first paycheck. Holding a gift box, Ileche tells the blonde man that she has something special for him as well. The girl thanks Cassis, admitting she would not be this happy if it were not for his presence in her life. Opening the box reveals an ornate dagger, as the purple-haired girl asks the man if he likes the gift. Cassis looks at her warmly and tells Ileche that he really likes the gift she chose for him. Ileche explains she chose the weapon with Ikob, who was certain the blonde man would appreciate it. The purple-haired girl laughs while recalling how she practically had to drag her companion into the shop.
Ileche describes how he complained dramatically about his clothes and the dirt on his shoes during their outing.
Suddenly serious, the purple-haired girl looks directly at Cassis and asks if he has anything to tell her. Cassis promises to treasure her gift before suggesting they have the staff bring out good wine for dinner. Letting the moment pass, Ileche smiles softly and agrees with him as she sits in the grand room. Outside, heavy rain falls over the grand estate, masking the sounds of the city's secret movements. A hand snaps a fan shut with a sharp sound as tension builds within the quiet mansion. Rosa reflects on scary dreams and how Cassis rose from being a vagabond to the master of Grandis. The red-haired woman suspects Cassis took Ileche to Mene because he had been watching her all along. A man recalls trusting someone regarding Ileche, while another shouts that everything is finally over in the rain. Looking down from the stairs, Rosa hears a man shout about sending greetings to his long-lost daughter. Rosa wonders if he discovered Ileche's location and realizes she must arrive first to warn the household. The red-haired woman urgently orders Jackson to prepare a hired carriage immediately, leaving the boy in shock. 2 carriages speed through the rainy streets as the search for the missing girl intensifies. Inside a carriage, a man mocks his target's ignorance while confirming they can legally search the house. A narrative thought acknowledges that Moles is a clever person for orchestrating such a calculated move. The plan involves faking knowledge of the girl's whereabouts so Sodali can move to report the news. Sodali recalls an unlucky expression, remembering the intense and regal presence of the man known as Cassis Opulence.